Welcome! In this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers of the world around us. We'll start with something super simple, but you'll see how it reveals something, well, way more complex about how our world is actually made. Every single thing you interact with, your phone, the app you're on right now, the chair you're sitting in, heck, even the vacation policy at your job, all of it started with a series of choices, design choices. And, well, this is where we get to the heart of the problem. We are brilliant at making stuff. But tracking the results, the ripples, the repercussions of all the things we create, yeah, that's a whole other story. So this gap between what we create and what happens next, it leads to something called runaway design. It's basically when our best ideas, our best intentions, just go completely haywire and end up causing these huge unintended problems. And we really do see this everywhere, right? Think about it. Design choices from decades ago about how we get around, they're warming the planet today. Choices in how we make our food, they've led to massive public health crises. And the design of our digital world, oh boy, that's shaping our society in ways we are just barely starting to wrap our heads around. So, okay, how does something as simple as a pen connect to these gigantic, complex problems? I know, it sounds like a huge leap, right? From a pen to climate change? To make that connection, we need a framework. We need a way to see all those invisible structures that connect the tiniest object to the biggest shifts in society. All right, let's dive right in. The key is that we can understand pretty much any designed object or system by looking at it through 6 interconnected layers. Think of this as our map for seeing all those hidden connections. It's kind of like a logical flow, It all starts with data. That's the research and info we gather. That data then informs the technology we decide to use or create. From that tech, we build a real, tangible product or service. Now, how you feel when you use that product, that's the experience. But here's the thing, that product doesn't just exist on its own. It's part of a bigger system of how it's distributed, used, and eventually thrown away. And all of that, it leads to the final layer, the implication. This is the big picture, the long-term impact on society and the planet. Okay, so now let's apply this. What's so cool is how perfectly an everyday Papermate pen fits into this model. The physical product, that's obvious. The experience is how it feels in your hand. The system, well, that's how it's sold in boxes of 12, and get this, designed to be thrown out. Waste is literally part of its design. Its tech is simple, it's analog, and it was designed using data from human ergonomics. So what's the final implication? Well, sure, it lets us write, but it also smears for lefties and, yep, contributes to a whole lot of plastic waste. This is such a great way to think about it. It's like throwing a stone into a pond. The product we make, that's just the initial splash. But that splash immediately creates ripples. That's the experience and the system. And those ripples just keep spreading out until they hit the shore, changing it. That is the lasting implication. So this brings up a huge question, right? If our designs have such big consequences, how can we be more critical, before we create? It's one thing to know these layers exist, but it's a whole other ballgame to actually think through them on purpose. Luckily, there are some really powerful mental models that can be our toolkit for designing better. Okay, let's talk about our first tool. It's called Thinking from First Principles, and it's all about breaking free from that trap of just saying, well, that's how we've always done it. See, most of us think by analogy. We look at what someone else is doing and we just copy it. But first principles thinking is totally different. It means you ignore what everyone else is doing, you break a problem all the way down to its most basic, fundamental truths, and then you build your solution up from there. A classic example is Elon Musk with rockets. The analogy thinking was just, rockets are super expensive, end of story. But he asked a first principles question. What are they actually made of? And he discovered the raw materials were just 2% of the price. The rest was just bloated cost from the way they were built. So by starting from that fundamental truth, he built SpaceX and completely turned the entire industry on its head. All right, so let's say we have a new idea, something we built from the ground up using first principles. How do we anticipate what's going to happen next? How do we actually look ahead to those system and implication layers before it's too late? Well, that's where our next tool, second-order thinking, comes in. It's the practice of looking past the immediate, obvious result and just repeatedly asking one simple but incredibly powerful question. First-order thinking? That's just our default mode. It's easy. We see a problem, we solve it, and we see the immediate result. It's the splash in the pond. It's the first domino falling. But real strategic thinking, second-order thinking, forces you to look past that first domino. It makes you ask, and then what? And after that? And then what? It's all about tracing that entire chain reaction, following those ripples all the way to the shore. It's like what the investor Charlie Munger said. Sometimes being smart isn't about finding the most brilliant solution. It's about consistently avoiding the really dumb mistakes. And second-order thinking is probably our best tool for spotting those future disasters and just steering clear of them. So here's the bottom line. When we understand these layers of design and actually use tools like first principles and second-order thinking, we get the power to create more responsibly. We can finally start to design with real intention. And this is where designing with intention becomes absolutely critical. The systems we all live in today, they're full of the ripples from past design choices. And some of those choices, whether they meant to or not, have created and locked in patterns of inequity. So conscious creation, it means seeing those patterns and actively working to design for a much more equitable future. It really means designing with a goal of healing. The things we decide not to do, the features we choose not to build, those are just as important as what we actually create. Those choices, they become our ethics, woven right into the fabric of the world we're all making. And that brings it all back to you. Because, believe it or not, every single one of us is a designer. Whether you're building an app, leading a project at work, or just planning out your own day, you are making choices. You are creating ripples. So, the only question left is, what kind of world will your ripples create?